What's up, guys? This is Andrew from FanShare Sports, and today we wanted to do just a quick little video tutorial around FanShare Pro. It's been a while since we did one of these, and we have launched some new features and quite a few upgrades in the last couple of months. So we thought it would be good to do a refresher and just make sure that all of our FanShare Pro members are getting the most out of the site. So we're going to go ahead and navigate to FanShare Pro on the golf platform. And as you can see, the default view here is going to be golfers ranked by their tag count for this week. And by tag count, we mean simply the number of times we have tagged a golfer in the content that we've curated in our news feed. So we use the term tag a lot, and it is kind of unique to FanShare, but it does really refer to a mention or the equivalent of a mention, and is representative of the amount of buzz that a particular golfer is getting in advance of whatever the tournament is that week. So for this week, we're obviously talking about the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and no surprise, we've got Tiger Woods at the top of the list as our most discussed golfer this week. Also, almost certainly will be the highest known golfer on the slate come lineup lock Thursday morning. So that's the default view, and we'll just go across the top menu bar here and talk about the other columns and just hopefully help you get the most out of this data. So the next column is the 24-hour increase or decrease in the tag rank for a specific golfer. This comes in pretty handy, especially later in the week, where you can identify kind of like the later week trends. So you can see this week, not a ton of movement within the top 10. We've got Francisco Molinari moving up 4 spots over the last 24 hours to 5th overall in tags. We have seen in a lot of cases that momentum, 24 hours before lineup lock will lead into a golfer's, ultimate popularity on DraftKings. So I would keep an eye on these trends, particularly late Wednesday going into Thursday morning. You can also sort this, by the golfers that have moved up the most or moved down the most over that time period. Next, we have last tournament tag count differential or tag count increase or decrease. This is a really handy feature for identifying recency bias situations. So as we all know in DFS, a particular golfer might be a darling one week and maybe misses the cut or simply just doesn't live up to expectations for that week, and the next week the buzz just drops off completely. So this feature actually allows you to track the increase or decrease in a golfer's buzz level from tournament to tournament. So you can see in the top 10 here, we've got quite a few big movers this week from their last tournament out. Tiger, most notably at the top. Kevin Chappell, was not quite as popular his last time out. Same for Emiliano Grillo, Molinari. Brian Harmon up 54 spots on the tag list from his last time out. He was kind of a sneaky play his last time out, and had a pretty strong showing, and is not flying under the radar anymore. It's interesting to sort this by the biggest fallers. This is where you can really identify potential recency bias leverage plays. We've got Ryan Moore, Charles Schwartzel right at the top of the list there. Hardly getting any discussion at all this week. Both in the top 75 in the official world golf rankings. So there is a bit of a ceiling there. Notwithstanding current form or key stats or course history or any of the other data points that we would typically look at, simply to show you that there's been a big drop off in discussion and interest across the DFS industry from these guys since their last tournament. Kevin Streelman kind of jumps out here. He was a really popular pick last week at the Valspar, ended up I think around 20% owned. So, a big drop in buzz this week for Streelman, although he does have a few start mentions here. So just another useful way to manipulate the data in the most tagged list. So we're going to go back to the default view, which is to rank by tags. We've got the golfer name, the number of tags. OW is odds to win. So, this has intentionally been placed next to the DraftKings salary amount. It's often helpful to compare the odds to the salary to identify discrepancies there, or maybe guys with the same odds to win but differences in salary. It's one way to identify value and also gauge potential ownership sync situations. We've got the start calls and the sit calls, and then we've got our sentiment rating. Obviously, the higher the sentiment rating, the stronger, the more positive the sentiment is around that golfer. We've got the official World Golf Ranking, which you can, again, use as a potential indicator of a high ceiling, high talent golfer that might be flying under the radar. What I often do is just go down the tag list and look for guys that are up in the official World Golf Rankings, but really not getting a lot of buzz. You can see Stenson, he's 15th in the world, but only T20th in tags this week. Even further down, Matsuyama, he's all the way down T23 in tags, only a 67% sentiment on Matsuyama, so he's definitely not trending for high ownership this week. Mark Leishman all the way down at T34. So just another way to kind of think a little bit differently and take a different perspective to building your lineups. MC is made cuts on the season. So that's pretty straightforward. And then finally we have our projected ownership for this week. And the projected ownership usually loads around midday on Wednesdays. So we're at Wednesday afternoon now, and that's the most recent projection in the table there now. So next thing we want to take a look at is the DraftKings performance tool. So hopefully you guys are already somewhat familiar with this tool, but this allows us to filter and sort DraftKings scoring data and ownership data for either individual events, historical events, or last 3 or last 6 event averages. So the default view here is the average data over the last 3 events. We also have a current tournament field filter where you can check this, and this is going to isolate only golfers that appear in that week's tournament. So this week, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And if we want to look at, say, DraftKings points gained, we can use the last 3 events average to see who has the best current form in terms of DraftKings points gained, at least, coming into the event. So Jason Day at the top. One thing to watch out for here is just the total aggregate events. So, AJ McKierney, not a name that's probably too familiar to most people, but he's only got 1 event. So a little bit of a skewed data point there. Otherwise, a lot of familiar names here. And again, it's another way to kind of look at potential lower owned plays. If you saw someone with really good current form coming in, but maybe was a little bit lower down the tag list or had a lower projected ownership, then that might be worth looking at. We've got average birdies, bogeys, eagles, and DraftKings ownership. One thing I like to do is look at the very last event on the calendar and kind of who had a strong performance there and is also in the Arnold Palmer field. So we've got Valspar Championship, last week's event. We've got the current tournament field filter on, and then we can again sort by DraftKings points gained. So Patrick Reed, Sam Burns, Rory Sabatini, a few guys that, despite having good weeks last week, aren't really projected to be chalk this week. Obviously, Tiger is projected to be chalk, but just another interesting way to view the data. Finally, we have our free month of FanShare Pro. So this is our new referral program. So basically, the way this works is if you are a FanShare Pro member, you can share your personal referral link to your friends, and maybe it's somebody in your fantasy league, really anyone who may have an interest in the data and plays fantasy golf. And if you share your referral link and someone creates a FanShare Pro subscription using that link, you both get a free month. So they still have to actually create the subscription and enter their payment information, but they will not be charged for the first month of their subscription. So that pretty much covers, what we wanted to cover today, and hopefully that gives you, a pretty good idea as to how best to navigate the site and help you get a little bit more out of the data. So that's it for today, guys. Good luck this week, and don't hesitate to hit us up on Twitter or admin@fansharesports.com if you have any questions. Cheers.